building just locked, so Jane is trying to figure out that. Okay, I'll go ahead and call to order the Longmont Planning and Zoning Commission March 25, 2026 meeting. First item is roll call.
Chair Poland.
Here.
Commissioner Edgley Wells. Here. Vice Chair Earl. Here. Commissioner Boone. Here. Commissioner Jordan. Here. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next item is the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that Longmont sits on the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and other indigenous peoples. We honor the history and the living and spiritual connection that the first people have with this land. It is our commitment to face the injustices that happened when the land was taken and to educate our communities, ourselves, and our children to ensure that the injustices do not happen again. This was adopted by the Longmont City Council July 13, 2021. I believe we adopted this 2 years ago ourselves. Next item is communications from Planning and Development Services, Grant Penland.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Just wanted to say welcome all this evening, and good to see you this March/summer, I guess. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is public invited to be heard. This is your first chance to speak to us. This is if you have something that is not coming before the board tonight or is not a quasi-judicial item. We give you 5 minutes to say your piece. Nobody signed up for this. Seeing nobody come forward, I'll go ahead and close out public invited to be heard. Next item is approval of the minutes from the January 21st, 2026 meeting. Do we have any comments, motions? Ooh, Jane, my screen isn't. It's on like a vote screen. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Commissioner Boone.
Move to approve the minutes of the January 21st, 2026 meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Jordan.
Thanks, Chair. I second that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, Jane, let's take a vote.
Commissioner Edgley Wells.
Yes.
Vice Chair Earl.
Yes.
Chair Poland.
Yes.
Commissioner Boone.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Chair, that passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll move next to the public hearing items. We have 3 items on the schedule today. 2 of them we are being taking the place of the, let me get this straight here, of the Board of Adjustments. The first item is 2299 Dexter Drive, fence height and transparency variance. Senior Planner Phil Taylor, the Planning and Zoning Commission is reviewing variance pursuant to 02024-06.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair Poland, Phil Taylor, Senior Planner, City of Longmont. I am here this evening to provide a brief presentation on the fence variance request for 2299 Dexter Drive. The variance requests considered this evening are to allow a fence greater than 42 inches in height and a fence to be less than 50% transparent to be located in the front yard between the front lot line and the front facade of the primary structure. The request here is a bit of an oversimplification of the specific variance requests being considered. Because of the design of the fence that steps up in height as it moves back into the property, the specific variances are about each specific fence height. And those variances are a variance of 1 foot 1 inch, allowing a fence height of 4 feet 7 inches, a variance of 2 feet 4 inches, allowing a fence height of 5 feet 10 inches, and a variance of 2 feet 10 inches, allowing a fence height of 6 feet 4 inches. That will all make a lot more sense as the presentation moves on. You can now see a aerial of the subject property located at the end of Dexter Drive or at the top of the cul-de-sac. The property is approximately a half acre in size and is part of the Rockmont Heights subdivision. You can now see a parcel map of the same area, indicating the large lot size and irregular shape of 229 Dexter Drive. I believe it is the largest lot in the subdivision, and you can see the southwest property line is rather long, approximately 173 feet. The improvement location certificate seen on the screen now is something that the planning staff requested to indicate the length of each fence segment and the height of each fence segment and the amount of fence located in front of the front facade of the primary structure. The measurements that were provided in this document were then put into the resolutions for consideration this evening. Here is an image of the fence, not to scale, indicating the fence heights for each segment. As you can see, the fence steps up in height towards the back of the property. Here is a couple more images of the fence running inside but along the side property line. Section 1505-100 of the Land Development Code set standards for front yard fences. They must be at least 50% transparent and not exceed 42 inches of height or 3.5 feet. These rules are written with typical front yards in mind, but due to this property's irregular shape, location of the house, and deep setbacks, the standards become harder to meet, especially when trying to accomplish the applicant's stated goal of providing a visual buffer from the activities on the neighboring property. Here is another image of the fence and the subject property taken from the cul-de-sac. Most of the time when we talk about front yard fences, we are seeing requests for fences along the front property line adjacent to the sidewalk. As you can see from this is a fence running along the side property line. And if this fence was behind the home, it would be allowed to be 6 feet and privacy fence with no variance required. The notice of violation the applicants received is seen on the screen here. Once they received the notice of violation informing them their fence did not meet current code, they applied for the variance. This notice of violation was received in October of 2025, approximately 4 years after the fence was constructed. For the 4 years prior to the violation, the fence was there with no problems or concerns. All public noticing for this item was met and followed the requirements of the Land Development Code. A sign was posted on site, notices were mailed to property owners, and the public and the newspaper, it was shown in the newspaper on March 20th. Due to that public noticing, we did receive 3 public comments. All comments received were in support of the variance requests. These public comments were included in the document packet for review. The next couple slides are going to be the review criteria applicable to all applications. You will probably see these slides again this evening. I think they're important to put in there, good for the record, good for people in the audience to be able to see them. These criteria basically explain that every project has to fit within the city's overall plans, work well with the neighborhood around it, and avoid creating problems for utilities, transportation, or the environment. Following these review criteria, we have the review criteria specific to variances. Variances can be granted when a property has a unique circumstance, such as an irregular shaped lot, that make strict application of the code impractical. Variance requests must still uphold the intent of the code, avoid negative impacts on neighbors, and not create safety issues. That pretty much concludes the planning's presentation. We do have code enforcement here to answer any questions about the notice of violation or any history of the property. The applicants are also here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Phil, is the applicants to do a presentation, or are we just...
Yeah, they're just going to talk and ask questions.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing item. As such, we'll open it up in case anybody in the public would like to make comments about that. Nobody has signed up for that, but I will invite anybody who would like to speak either for or against the variance. You can step forward. We just ask that you give your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Sorry, I'm slow.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, I live at 2299. I'm Evelyn Gassler. Madge is my name I go by. My husband Art. And we put the fence up because the stuff, or we call it trash, was getting so bad. By the side of their garage there, it would come over into our yard. There was no fence, nothing there to show a boundary of what was their property and ours. And some people want to come to the door and want to know why we had all this mess over there. That's kind of embarrassing for me. So anyway, we decided we're going to put a fence across there. There is some pictures here. That's the way it looks now. I don't know how they will see them. You want me to take them?
We can hand this to them if you'd like. I'll give it to Jane to hand it to them.
Okay. And I got some individual ones and that's the way it is today, the way it looks behind that fence. I come and got the permit for it. I understood that I could go higher in the back. I think it was Dana was her name that helped me when I come and got permit. And we drew pictures of how it would be. It would be taller in the back. So that's why we went with the 6 feet to 5 feet. And maybe these here, this one here don't have to go. But that's the way, I just took these pictures last week and that's the way it looks in the back behind their fence now.
Okay.
If we took the fence down, we just wouldn't be able to put up another one.
Okay.
So I'm just asking for mercy, and when the fence did get put up, no, I did not call when the fence was finished, because I didn't understand I had to call. I thought I just had to put the permit paper in the window. So I will say I did not call
Okay.
when the fence was finished. And also, they would drive they have a trailer that they fill with trash and stuff, and they would push that thing back or drive it back with a big four-wheeler and go over our grass and our sprinkler heads and break them. So now that isn't any possibility there with the fence up. And we would sure appreciate if we could keep the fence. when we first moved in there, they didn't live there. There was other folks that lived there, but they kept their, we worked together on the yard.
Okay.
And these folks seem like they just don't have time for yard work. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm sure that Ryan can answer a lot of questions. They've all been so kind to us.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. And if I can say any more, why you let me.
We may have questions for you.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, just stay here? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is anybody else in the public would like to come forward? Seeing no one else come forward, we'll go ahead and close out public invited to be heard and move it to the commission for questions, comments. Anybody have anything that they want to ask? Commissioner Jordan.
Thanks, Chair. Phil, I think this might be for you because I know you were going to be talking about, do we have like an average, how much it's over, either in terms of transparency or height, rather than looking at it like on a per section basis? Okay, so are we quantifying what the ask is from a variance perspective?
Yes. Yes, the specific requests outlined in the resolutions memorialize the fence exactly as it is today. So we would know if it has changed at all or altered from what it is right now.
Okay, so it would literally be as it stands, whatever varying measurements that are from the ground.
Correct.
Okay. But do we have a general idea? It sounded like it was between like 6 inches and 2.5 feet. Is it, or something like that?
Yes, give me 1 sec.
1 foot 1 and 2 foot something. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the lowest portion of the fence is 4 feet 7 inches, and a fence in the front yard is supposed to be 3 feet 3.5 feet.
Okay. And have we quantified the current transparency? I know there's space between the slats. I know it was supposed to be 50%.
We did not.
Okay.
I'm considering this an opaque fence.
Okay. I guess I know that sometimes when variances or let's just say planning type things come through planning and zoning, there's a certain amount of leeway the planning director can grant. Is that apply in this situation, or does it exceed that? In other words, how it came direct to us, or did it already go through that check?
It does not qualify for an administrative modification.
Okay.
The ask is too great.
All right. The other question I had is kind of about the spirit of the transparency as it's written. Is there any because it sounds like this was the transparency is primarily so you can see the front of the house from the street. Is that the idea?
Yes, I believe so. Transparency, sort of, you picture a white picket fence.
Right. I guess the question is, given that it's a cul-de-sac and it's effectively a circle, when we're looking at the fence in this case, it's more or less parallel to a viewer as opposed to perpendicular. So transparency doesn't take into account the orientation relative to the intended purpose. A fully transparent fence that's running parallel to your sight line is basically, a fully opaque fence is effectively fully transparent, but if it was perpendicular, it would be fully opaque. We don't factor that into the code at all.
We do not.
Okay. And I guess I know part of the code, our considerations tonight is about safety and things like that. Have we had anybody weigh in on this from like the fire department or anything like that?
No, there are no safety concerns with how the fence was constructed or where it is located.
Okay. Last question I have, I guess, is, it's an odd-shaped lot. And I guess is the expectation of privacy for owners who have odd-shaped lots on the back of a cul-de-sac, were we considering that the same as people with traditionally shaped lots?
The Land Development Code is supposed to address all properties.
Okay. I think those are all the questions I have. And I'll try to not pipe up too much more often.
No problem. Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of comments. We were given in our packet a markup by one of the planners for this fence. I'm finding it, excuse me here. It was marked up with a red flare, and this was part of the permit that said 42 inches, 50% open from this point forward. Do you remember that?
I didn't, it wasn't red line, but it did say 42 inch. When the fence was put up, we were gone. Well, I forget about that. When the fence was put up, we were not home at the time. And the gentleman, Casey, that put the fence up for us, went out and picked the fence up where we bought it, because he works for them. And he had put the fence up while we were gone from Friday until Sunday night. And I didn't see the transparency. I did after it was up.
Okay.
But then after it wasn't, nothing was said about it after 4 years, I thought, well, then I guess it's okay.
Well, I'll address that as well.
Sure.
So if you think about
then-
all the projects that are under construction in the city, the city inspectors cannot spend their days driving up and down every single street.
Oh, I know.
So it's a requirement. It's actually written on the permit that you are required to call for inspection.
Is it written on mine? I'll have to see. But yes, I know it should be 50% now, I know that now, yes. But if it was, we'd probably have more on our side than what we want, but that's, that's the way it is.
Really, the only leeway that I would have on this particular lot would be the fact that it's a weird lot, and the front property line is in a curve. So I would argue that that magic location where the fence has to be short is a curved line from probably the corner of the garage over to the side property line, which gives a lot more leeway for that fence. Now, we're not in a position with this panel to make that variance, but I could see that being okay. As it is, it really is just a blatant violation of the fence code. And we have the fence code for reasons, and I would not like to give a variance to set a precedent that would allow this to continue to happen. Another way of giving, and I apologize that you have a bad neighbor. That's a tough place to be in. Another way to have solved this problem would have been to put shrubs or a hedge along that property line, but you didn't do that.
No, it'd be kind of hard for us to keep a hedge trimmed and all the leaves.
Well, it's just an alternative.
Sure, I know that, yes.
So, let's see if I had anything else in my notes.
I have seen other properties in town here that their fence is enclosed completely. It's in the front yard. There's no opening on it whatsoever.
Probably not at that height,
Yes, yes.
and perhaps without permission. Things do happen without
Oh, yes,
permission as
yeah.
well.
Oh, yes, I understand that. I understand that.
I think those were my only comments at this point.
I'm just saying it's been peaceful and more quiet with the fence up, and we don't have to put up with cleaning trash out of our yard all the time, but I know that's not your problem, it's ours,
Yeah.
but just to see it every day.
And I truly am sorry that you're dealing with a bad neighbor. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad neighbors in town.
Yes, I know there is, yes.
Okay, that's all I've got for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edgley Wells.
Okay, my mic is on now. So in the Planning and Zoning Commission document that was submitted to us, I see that 2295 Dexter Drive had been cited for some of the trash and debris that was in their yard, and that it had been resolved. However, the photographs that you've submitted to us today show, were you saying those are current photos as of recent of the yard now accumulating further debris? Is that correct?
I didn't hear all of that.
Are the photos current?
Are the photos current? Yes, they are current. Yes, the photos are current.
Okay, because in the document that I'm reading, it shows that it was cleaned up, but the photos you're bringing in say something different. And what I'm getting at is the hardship that it possibly creates, that the neighbors have not kept up and could potentially be causing you some hardship by allowing debris to accumulate. But it does have to be recognized that when they were cited for their debris, it was mitigated. So I just want to bring that up for consideration, that when it's brought to their attention, they clean up so that they don't receive further citation. However, it does seem to, the problem seems to worsen again, so.
It has been that way for years. The code enforcement can come and ask them to clean up, and they might, but then they're right back at it again.
I see.
You just like rearrange stuff or something, I don't know.
Okay.
But I invite any of you, all of you, come over and see our fence. You could come see our fence, and you could see behind there.
Those are my
I don't
only
know,
comments.
Ryan's probably been out there lately. I don't
Okay.
know.
Thank you. Commissioner Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be pretty brief here. We had, no comments from the public in this meeting other than the applicant. We had 3 positive comments in the record that we received. We did, however, have the notice of violation, which suggests there was a complaint, which I would interpret to be a negative comment. Can we talk about the kind of notice of violation, how that came to be, kind of the history of that a little bit?
What was that?
Yes.
What did he say was a complaint?
He wants to hear about copy of that complaint. So Ryan's going to talk about that.
So yes, this fence violation was. Oh, sorry. My name is Ryan Garvert. I work for City of Longmont Code Enforcement. I received this case via a neighbor complaint. Did originate from 2295 Dexter Drive after there were some notices of violation issued for some junk and trash issues on their property, as we kind of just previously discussed, which is why, again, that notice was issued. So, yes, there was a neighbor complaint about the fence.
Okay. Thank you. No, that's helpful since we didn't have the public comments on that. So I figured it was kind of implied.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a little bit aligned with Commissioner Boone on the thinking here. I'm sympathetic. I think the fence looks nice. I understand the purpose it serves. I'm looking in the record at attachment 7, which is the fence permit itself, where it is very clear what the max height is in multiple places. And I don't see, given our decision criteria, that it meets a criteria for a variance. And it's kind of unfortunate because I don't think it's really disruptive to have to have the fence there, but the code is what the code is, and we make the decision on the variance based on the way that our criteria are set, and I don't see us satisfying that criteria.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, I actually have a couple follow-up questions. Has there been a history at 2295 of reported violations throughout the years?
So the last documented violations at 2295, and
Correct.
going off memory here, were in September of 2025. Nothing prior to that, though.
Nothing prior to that, okay. I guess, well, I'll hand it over to Commissioner Boone.
Thank you. Just a clarification, 2295 is the house right next door with all the junk?
Yeah, directly to it would be kind of to the west, I
Okay,
guess.
and is 2295 the one that filed the complaint about the fence, or was that a different neighbor?
So yeah, the residents at 2295 filed a complaint about the fence
The
that we're
fence.
discussing tonight.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Ryan, I do have another question. What do we do for multiple habitual offenders? In this case, they went and they cleaned up and it got resolved. But as we see pictures now, and I actually happened to go onto Google search, and actually from 2024, the Google picture actually had some not flattering photos of that property as well. What do we do with a habitual offender like that? I mean, outside of the decision we have to come, I also want to see, what other steps, what can be done by the neighbors when something like this happens.
Yep, so code enforcement violations are meant to be escalatory in nature. Our main goal is voluntary compliance, so if property owners are working towards resolving a violation, we're going to obviously work with them and extend that time to get things done. As you noted, right, this might be more of a habitual offender type situation. Our code does allow increased civil penalties for repeat violations within a 12-month period. That's on a fine schedule outlined in the municipal code. We also have options to, if it's a junk and trash violation, abate the violation or issue them a summons to municipal court. I will be clear that 2295, I believe they did receive 1 or 2 civil penalties as a result of the stuff going on there. But they haven't received any summonses to court, or we haven't entered the property to physically clean it at this point.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to say right now where I'm at, and I think we have maybe a little more discussion, but I'm kind of also in the thing, it's pretty clear what the code states is acceptable. And if it was something a little bit closer to what we could work with, and really my thing is the opaqueness, the height, and given the fact that it's on a hill, there's a slant there, I could give or take on the height. I'm not really hung up on the height. It's the opaqueness. And it's unfortunate because I think if you had put in just a regular picket fence, it would have more or less achieved most of what you needed. And if needed, add a couple shrubs to help fill it in a little bit. I've seen that in various other neighborhoods where people have put in either picket fences or a combination of picket fences and shrubs. And at this point, with only a couple of complaints against them, I know this has been going on for a long time. If we had had more of a history of complaints, I think that's something maybe that we could also work with. But right now, it's unfortunate the fact that the complaints have just come out recently from within the last year from the neighborhood. And I understand that this has been going on for years, but from our stance on this commission, we have to take and just see what actually has happened. We haven't been around for those years. That's where I'm at right now. I'd like to see if there's, I'd be all in support of a picket fence and put in some shrubs. That would be a perfect solution. That's kind of where I'm at right now, looking to see if anybody else has any comments. Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm kind of on the same page with Chair Poland, and I would wonder if you would entertain taking down or modifying the first 2 panels and putting up a different style of fence with pickets or a more transparent fence and or shrubs, and leaving the rest. Even though panels 3 and 4 are also too high, I would give that variance, I believe. But if we could do something for the ones that come all the way out to the street, I think that would be a good compromise that would still give you the privacy protection that you're looking for, and it would more or less satisfy the fence code.
That's the first 3?
The first 2, it would be really helpful if we could bring up the picture of
The first
the first,
3?
the first,
Or 2, yeah, the first 2.
the first 2.
That first 18-foot section.
Either the first 18-foot section or maybe just the first 2 panels and having 1 low panel.
But
Or-
could we leave the fence, we didn't want to put up a picket fence because they'd probably have the pickets broke off at the top. And I'm sorry, Ryan, but this history is going back, 10 years, just trash and trash and trash. I don't know how many times they've been over. But that's why we didn't go with the picket fence, that we had something, the solid board at the top.
Well, you
If
could do a
we-
transparent fence that wasn't a picket,
Yeah, can we, if we went with the first 2 sections and make it more transparent, is that what you want?
Well, considering that there's 3 that are alike, it probably would make sense to make all 3 of
All
those
3 of them.
the same.
Yes, like take,
I don't have a problem with the fence coming all the way out. It's just its height plus transparency, lack of transparency.
if we set it down further into the ground and maybe took out every other,
If it were lower and more transparent, then you would satisfy the fence code. You are allowed to have that piece of fence per the fence code.
Yeah, I think, and I think we might have a little discussion with the commission about what
yeah.
others may be looking at also as well. So
Yeah.
before we come to a final, this
Oh,
is,
absolutely.
Off the top to bring it down to the level it's supposed to be.
Okay,
Okay, understand that now?
take it off the top then.
Yes. You don't want to go down lower to the ground, you just take it off the top.
This is our son, Pat, helping Mom through this.
Okay.
Okay, if we took the board off at the top,
Well, it'd just be altered to,
yeah, look like a picket fence.
no, it'd
No.
still be a rail across there, but the slats will be, there'll be more opening in the slats and it will be lower.
Lowered.
No picket fence, no nothing.
If we cut the top off
At the top, 6 inches.
and put the solid top back on, took every other panel out, every other,
so you can take every other panel?
well,
Well,
we
you see,
can't.
Just for her to understand.
okay, yes, because actually that would be perfect, but, are you done, Commissioner Boone? Okay, Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Jeremy, this is actually for you. Just a quick question. And I'm going to kind of look at it so I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, but since we did get a complaint from the neighbor that has all the garbage, do we feel like if we were to accept a variance, that the city could be open to litigation for favoring one neighbor over the other when the code is clearly stated? And I only ask because it feels like we're potentially empowering some retaliation, but we are talking about, if we did that, we would be going to the code. So you know what I'm saying? We're in a sticky spot here, and I want to see what your opinion is.
Good evening, members of the commission. Jeremy Terrell, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Excellent question, Commissioner Jordan. Without getting into too much detailed legal advice, I would say as long as the Planning and Zoning Commission considers the conditions of our code in terms of what is required to grant a variance and consistently applies that, then I feel confident of limited to no liability for the city.
Okay. And so with that said, I'm going through the review criteria, and I'm kind of just run through them real quick. This is sort of my interpretation, and I'm open to discussion. But I do feel like in A.I that the special circumstances are they do apply here just due to the shape of the lot. I think the A.2, there are certain things that are at odds with each other here, but for me, the degree it's whether property and development can have any beneficial use without the variance. I do feel like that is weighted proportionally here, given what may be 10-year conflict, and it seems kind of antagonistic. This might be a situation where this is actually improving the use for the neighbor in question. That's subjective, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't think for criteria B of impairing the purpose's intent, let's see here, the adversely impact of surrounding properties, neighborhoods, fire code, and I don't think any of those are big considerations for me. I think it's whether or not it's self-imposed, and it's for me, I feel like Commissioner Boone, when you mentioned potential partial alteration to make a softer variance, I feel like that would be in line with the unique circumstances about this lot that kind of prevent it from granting the homeowner the privacy that others would expect. That's kind of how my read is. Anyways, just sort of some thoughts here, if any commissioners want to weigh in on that.
Thank you. Vice Chair Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Boone, I want to make sure I understand what you were talking through here and just make sure that I'm getting this. I'm going to refer to the image that's on the screen. I'm also looking at the improvement location certificate because you mentioned the lot lines earlier, and I think that's relevant to this discussion as well. And that's attachment 6 in our packet. So if I'm understanding your suggestion, it was that the 18 feet, the fence segment that is closest to the cul-de-sac, so on the picture here to the right, basically we would remove that from the variance so that it would have to meet the 42-inch height and 50% transparency, and we would grant the variance for the other segments, the subsequent 18 feet and then the 24 feet closest or furthest back. And we allow that to remain as is, if I'm understanding that correctly. Mr. Chairman, do you mind?
Commissioner, okay, let's see.
Thank you.
Yes, I think so. And as I mentioned before, I really think that demarcation line should be a curved line that aligns with the front of the property line. And when you do that on the ILC, you will see that the 6.3 portion of the fence is fine, and the 5.8 portion of the fence is also fine, except for the last little bit of it. So that would be the variance, would be, let's see, it would be panel 1, 2, 3, it would be panel 4 from the street.
Yeah.
That would be the only one that would really need a variance, because from panel 5 back, it complies with the code.
Yeah, and I mean that was my understanding of your suggestion, so I appreciate that clarification. I do think that from a PZR standpoint, It would still be the variance for both the 18-foot and the 24-foot segment in total. But you're right, the practical variance, if we think the lot line is that curve, based on we're really only granting a few feet of variance is the practical implication of that.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yep. I'm more amenable to that in terms of a modified variance. I think that could be a reasonable way for us to proceed.
Councilman Popkin.
It does not, the fence does not go all the way to the sidewalk. There's that
No, it doesn't quite.
I just wanted to jump in for a second to make sure that everyone was clear on what was being actually suggested. So between the back and forth there, can you just restate what specifically was being proposed?
Who wants to take that? It looks like Commissioner Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my interpretation, Councilmember Popkin, if you look at PZR 2026-2A, which is our resolution for approving, there are 3 separate variances in Section 3 of that. There is for the first linear 18 feet, the second linear 18 feet, and then the following section. I think we're basically suggesting scrapping that first variance for the first linear 14 feet. So that has to meet the code, and the variance applies for the other 2. Partly on the belief that the lot line and the unique nature of the property means that the practical variance here is a couple of feet in length, but the code variance is the full 18 and 24 feet. Did I describe that appropriately?
Yes, I just want to make sure everyone else understands it at this point too.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boone.
I think the 24 feet needs a variance. I think it complies.
I think that's why it's 14 in the variance here.
Oh,
Oh, no. Yeah.
Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the city considers along the front edge of the house as the line for demarking what's the front of the house. So that first section of 24 feet is actually still needs a variance, correct?
So
Yeah, it would.
the code says any portion of the front facade of the
See,
primary
I think it should
structure.
be read there,
The
not there.
24-foot section, the farthest section from the street, a portion of that section is behind the front of the garage. So only a portion of the 24 feet is in front of the front facade of the garage.
Of the neighbors, of the...
No, of her
Oh,
garage.
oh, her
yes.
garage, okay.
It's sort of at an angle, the house, and so the garage does step out further
Okay.
than the front door.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I think I'm going to ask a very related question to what you just said, so apologize that you just sat down. It's a technicality. It's not really the PZR that we have has that final variance for 14 linear feet. The images we're seeing are all the 24 linear feet. Is that difference because of where the extended line of the house is? So the 14 feet is intentional in the variance request?
Yes, I apologize for the confusion. That last segment is 24 feet long, but a portion of it is behind the front facade.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure that if we go ahead and vote for it, that we're using the correct language in the variance.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do we have, Commissioner Boone.
are we ready for a motion?
Well, actually, before you go ahead and state your motion, if you can read off of what your condition is.
Let me get the correct reading. Oh, I maybe don't have the correct reading. Okay, I would make a motion that we modify the variance to include the second 18-foot portion and the 24-foot portion, or if you want to call it the 14-foot portion that is in front of the house, to grant the variance for those two portions of the fence and to require that the front 18 feet of the fence be modified to comply with the fence code.
So we'd be getting rid of 3.1, but keeping the variance would be 3.2, 3.3, but get rid of 3.1.
So that essentially would, in section 3, it would get rid of item 1, and it would leave items
It have to be 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4 in the variance. Oh, that gets complicated.
You might have to modify 4, so it just applies to these two.
Any other, so that's what you're thinking about. Anybody have any comments on that? Vice Chair Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a technicality question again here. It's about the language and how we're doing this. Are we suggesting, and Jeremy, I'm looking at you to help me with this a little bit. Are we suggesting that we're using the conditional approval, or are we modifying the approving the variance? Because what I'm hearing is we're effectively changing some of the language in Section 3 of PZR 2026-2A. We're not really imposing conditions. And I just want to make sure whatever motion we make, because I don't have a problem with the language Commissioner Boone suggested, I just want to make sure we're doing it appropriately.
Good evening, Commissioner Earl. I'd recommend the commission adopt a motion to direct staff to amend PZRA to reflect the variance Commissioner Boone is suggesting and authorize the chair to sign said resolution at a later date. That will give staff time to amend PZRA and then also allow Chair Poland to sign electronically and then get it finalized without having to wait for the next meeting.
Do we have any other comments? If not, Commissioner Boone, do you want to put that into a motion?
I will move that we do what Jeremy just said.
I think that's fine, but I would restate your conditions for staff's benefit along with my own.
Okay. What I don't have is,
That's the sentence. Let's look at
let me just pull it up.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan, yes, you were saying that you would do us a favor and not them a favor. Well, are you going to come over then and keep their stuff cleaned up beside? Because that's not doing... It's not doing them a favor. It's not doing us a favor. Do us a favor by having our fence as it is so we don't have to see it or pick it up. But who's going to keep that cling over there on their side? How will we know it's going to stay clean?
Well, I think the city has a process for that. Unfortunately, it requires...
Well, that would be good.
It requires the public to call in and say that there is a violation, and then the city would come out and look at the property, and if there is a violation, they would do a citation, and as been indicated, since there have been multiple citations before, there's a possibility that the citations get more and more expensive as if they are committed. I think, yeah. Ryan, please.
Yes.
Then they get very, what do I want to say, vulgar? Very, oh,
Yeah, it's certainly something that,
I had to call police on them, anyway. Let me quiet.
yes, it's certainly something that we can keep addressing. Again, as I mentioned, right, and as you mentioned, the city does have a, escalatory process for that. It would be helpful if the, residents or Mrs. Gashler was calling in when they did observe that, because again, we do primarily work off complaint base for this type of stuff. So yes, we do have a process to make sure that that property is being maintained. I'll advise you, it is kind of a long process sometimes. If we're issuing a ticket to court, that takes several months to actually get through the judicial process and be resolved. But yeah, there are ways that we can stay on that adjacent property to make sure that trash isn't becoming an issue there.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready, Commissioner Boone?
Probably still not going to state this correctly, but I would like to move that I'm still not clear if we're going to have 2B or 2A.
It's 2A.
It'll be 2A because we're going to take out item 1. Is that correct?
It's a motion to amend PZR, to direct staff to amend PZRA,
A.
stating what you're suggesting.
Stating that, let me get the right paragraph here. Stating that in section 3, the variance of 1 foot for the 18 front linear feet is removed from the variance.
And to add to your motion, give Chair Pullen authority to sign
And
said
give
resolution.
Chair Poland authority to sign this after the fact electronically rather than bringing it back to the next meeting.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any further discussions? Yes.
Will you come over, or whoever, no, Ryan, he's not in our area now, and see that that's all cleaned up back there before we remodify? I don't want to remodify with all that.
I would think that what would have to be done is then a complaint would have to be called in, which would force them to clean up, and then the work. We can't make it contingent on them cleaning up first, but if there's stuff that needs to get cleaned up, I'm thinking that the best way is to go ahead and have somebody
Call a complaint?
whether it's you or one of the other neighbors, call in a complaint.
They know it's.
Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, they know
Did
it's
you
me.
want to add something? No.
Yeah, that if she wants to file a complaint, we can have someone from code enforcement come out and
Okay.
restart.
Very good. Okay, this is what? Oh. I'm just going to comment. This is imperfect situation. I personally, I would probably want to see more opaque going a little further back, but given the conversation, given the stuff that has happened with the neighbor, I'm good with where this ended up. I think it's a fair compromise. I don't think everybody is happy, but that's what tends to happen with compromises. And I think that hopefully too that we have given you some of the tools that you can use. I know it's going to be tricky with the neighbors, but I think this is the best way to move forward. I do not wish to use or make a precedent of using variances to solve neighbor disputes. So I think we're trying to be careful in the line that we're walking here.
Yes.
So I am for it. So if there's no other comments, Jane, let's take a vote.
Commissioner Edgley Wells? Yes. Vice Chair Earl? Yes. Earl, sorry. Commissioner Poland? Chair Poland, my goodness. Commissioner Boone? Yes. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Chair, that passes unanimously 5-0.
Thank you very much. This item now enters a 7-day appeal period. During this time, any aggrieved party may appeal the commission's decision by submitting a written appeal letter stating why the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision should be amended or reversed by City Council. All appeals must be in writing and must be received in the City Clerk's office and the Planning Office within the 7-day appeal period. The appeal period begins Thursday, March 26th at 8 a.m. and ends Wednesday, April 1st at 5 p.m. Thank you, Madge. And then I think we are ready to move to our next item. The next item is item 7B. This is actually a planning and zoning item. It's 216 Grant Street variance for enlargement of a non-conforming structure and setback variance. Associate Planner Molly Day. Welcome, Molly. I think this is the first time before us. Probably take a couple minutes to get everything rearranged. Okay,
Good.
Molly.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Molly Day. I'm an Associate Planner with Planning and Development Services, and I'm here this evening to walk you through the variance requests for 216 Grant Street. The property is located at 216 Grant Street. It is zoned residential single family, and the future land use designation and Envision Longmont is single-family neighborhood. The request this evening is in two parts. The first part is a variance request for a 3.1-foot side yard setback, where a 5-foot side yard setback is required. The second part of the request is a variance for an enlargement or expansion of a non-conforming structure. This shows the existing conditions at 216 Grant Street. The existing home has a 3.1-foot side yard setback from that north property line. And the applicant is proposing an addition on the back of the home that will continue that 3.1-foot side yard setback, thus creating an expansion of a non-conforming structure. These are some proposed elevations of the addition provided by the applicant. And public noticing requirements were met on these dates. This table shows the dimensional standards for the residential single-family zone district, and I have highlighted the portion that shows the 5-foot required side yard setback. Additional applicable standards are in reference to non-conforming structures. Because this proposed enlargement or expansion does not meet the current dimensional standards of 5 feet, a variance request is required. Applicable review criteria for this request can be found in these two sections of the Land Development Code. As Senior Planner Taylor referred to earlier, this is the second time you are seeing these. Here's the criteria for all application types continued. These can also be found in the staff report provided. On this slide, we have the variance criteria. And here they are continued. Again, these can also be found in the staff report provided. And these criteria are what the commission will be basing their decision on. There are two decisions for the commission this evening. The first of which is, does the variance request for the 3.1 foot side yard setback, where a 5 foot side yard setback is required, meet the review criteria? In addition to that, the commission must decide if the request for a variance for an enlargement or expansion of an existing non-conforming structure meets review criteria. These are the three options for the Planning Commission this evening, and there's more detail on these options in the provided staff report. Thank you. That does conclude my portion of the presentation. The applicant is here this evening, and they have a presentation prepared.
Okay.
I will be available for questions after they have presented. I would now like to welcome the applicant to the podium.
And once again, please state your name and address for the record.
Commissioner, committee, my name's Tony Schrader, Anthony Schrader, if you're the bank or an attorney, and my wife Lori is here with me. So there's probably more pressure coming from that side of the aisle than this side of the aisle. So I want to talk you through this variance request. It's in Old Town. The original structure that we're asking to add on to was built in 1936. I don't believe there was a setback variance back in 1936. It is part of the Bond Farm Historical District, so although it's not a historical home or have a historical designation, it is part of the history of that area. And we purchased this house in 2020, fully intending it to be our toes up house where we would retire, and had a reasonable belief that we could put an addition onto the house that would follow the current building line. So that's why we're asking for the variance. We're asking the add-on to be to follow the current building line, and I'll take you through some of the things you're seeing here on this slide. So this is from the the plans we submitted with our permit. And just to explain maybe some of what you're seeing here, the purple lines are the addition, the blue lines are the current structure. So you can see, kind of walking through, the bottom part of the graphic is actually the back of the house. And the first thing you'll see is what we're asking is to continue the building line that's in place. If you walk through that area, that neighborhood, there are plenty of homes built probably in about the same era with the same sort of setback challenge, we'll call it. And I've seen multiple additions in the area. None of them would have a little jut to support the current setback requirements, which is what's being depicted in that with the red line off to the left. Catch up where I'm at. So we looked at maybe compressing the building space a little bit. So in other words, we'll call it in round figures, 2 feet out of the engineered design, where we would compress the bedroom and the bathroom. And you see the first problem would be the bathroom, which is built, basically, it's not a large bathroom. In fact, the entire addition is less than 500 square feet. The bathroom would be compressed by another 2 feet, and it's already very small for 2 people who are getting ready to retire in that space. The bedroom could we could actually take and move the bedroom over slightly, along with the closet. We don't really want to change the size of the closet because it's also solving a serious storage problem the home has because it's small. But we could move that all over by the 2 feet. That would cause a problem, which is being highlighted by that red square and the line in the right center. And what you're seeing there is a little misleading because it depicts a back door in that area like it's existing, but that's not actually the case. I'll get to that here in a minute. But it would require us to move the landing and staircase for that back door entrance closer to the garage and create kind of an awkward space. It'd be very difficult to get through to the backyard area. The other thing that we considered was taking, if you look at the top center, moving the closet to an alternate location. So it would be at the end of the addition instead of there in the middle. That would cause a couple other issues. So the way the bedroom's currently designed, even with the limited space between the garage and the bedroom, we did build kind of a passive solar feature into that section where the bedroom would have a large sliding glass window and sunlight could come in through that area. If we move the closet, it'll all but eliminate that because you'll have a shadow from the closet and then of course the shadow from the garage, and also kind of create this awkward, unusable space there in the middle. And of course, I think part of the challenge here is the cost of re-engineering. We probably would not solve this little safety problem we've had for a while. So if you look at this is the existing back porch, and it has 3 converging points for access from the back. You see the stairs coming up from the downstairs. You have the stairs coming down towards that landing area, and of course the door. And what's happened multiple times is someone coming into that landing, the door opens into that landing, and someone gets knocked down the stairs. That's happened twice. So as we retire in that area, I want to eliminate that problem. And so some of the design was to move that entrance to the back portion of the porch, where it would have its own access through stairs up to the porch area. And I want to highlight a couple other things. This is Old Town. I mentioned to you guys, you walk through that neighborhood, there's a plethora of variance issues in that area. And we did apply for a variance back in 2023. We actually went through the entire process. We paid the fees. We got the envelopes. And at the time, I was working with the general contractor. Apparently, approval went to the general contractor. He was told that we would be grandfathered. I don't have any of the documentation, but I don't have a reason to lie about that. But it was approved that the entire setback would be grandfathered in. And I think I've presented some of the evidence of at least what I have. When we decided to not move forward with the permit at that time due to, I'll call it the COVID building cost that was going on, we got quotes up into the 400,000s for 500 square feet. We kind of put an end on it, and now we'd like to continue with that. And time is kind of critical at this point. I have 3 more years of working that I can get this built and paid for before I retire. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that this is a public hearing item, we will go ahead and open up for public invited to be heard. Nobody had signed up But we will give the public a chance if they would like to speak for this item. Seeing nobody come up, we'll go ahead and close out public invited to be heard. Turn it back to the commission for any comments, questions, motions. I'll go ahead and kick this off real quickly. Molly, non-conforming. One of the options is for the director to go ahead and make an administrative modification. Is there a reason? Is this too big? Is that why it wasn't done that way?
Yes, thank you for the question, Chair. Yes, the 3.1 foot setback is too large of a variance essentially from that 5 foot required setback. 3.75, so 3.25 feet, would fit that administrative modification threshold of 25% of a deviation from code.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking on the site plan that we were provided. I don't have the neighboring lots, but I am wondering, what is the current setback on the neighboring lot as built? How far away is the neighbor's house?
I do not know. That information was not provided with the application and the material for this request.
Because I think that's something to consider. We truly don't want houses to be too close together for many reasons, most of them fire reasons. So I think that's something to consider.
Tony, can you come up for a second? And I'm going to add on. In looking at some of the pictures, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong for this area, it appears that there is a house, and on one side there's a driveway, and on the other side, most of the residences have a very small setback that kind of go to the other person's driveway.
Right. So in this section of town, the lots are very narrow and long, and each lot is separated on at least on my side of the street, on the south side by a driveway. So the driveway is the really kind of the neighboring structure.
So to the north is another driveway.
Yeah.
There's a little retaining wall there, and
Yeah.
then another driveway.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one other comment. So in looking at the plans that were submitted, I have less issue, well, I do kind of have issue with the setback, but I have less issue with the setback than I do with the fact that you have a non-compliant basement right now. It's not even 7 feet high, and it's 6.5 feet or something like that, and you're proposing to continue that non-compliant height of a basement?
No, we're not having, the addition will not have a basement. It's a crawl
It's
space.
shown in the building section, I believe.
I believe it's depicted as a crawl space.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find it.
Might be a tiny note in here.
Because I would not agree with extending a non-compliant basement.
Yeah, Commissioner Boone, I mean, the whole purpose is actually to add a first floor room
Okay,
for us, so.
let me just see what I saw. I want to make sure. Architectural plans, here we go. And I hope I'm just wrong. Okay, the foundation plan looks like a crawl space. And then when I look at the cross section on sheet A 3.0,
says crawl space right here. It says no crawl space.
See, this is what I'm looking at here.
Oh. Take a look at page 5. and zoom in.
Okay, so maybe that's a deep crawl space. It appears that the new foundation is down at the same level as the existing foundation.
Okay.
And that would lead one to believe, you know, well, it's non-compliant as a basement. You'd want to make sure that it wasn't being used as a basement, because that greatly increases the non-compliant space of the house.
I'm not an engineer, so I can't comment on why the engineer would put it equal with the current foundation, but the intent is not to have a basement there. So, and I think it's also depicted in the drawing as crawl space.
Okay, it's a really deep crawl space. It's a 6.5-foot deep crawl space. Okay, let's see. I had another couple of questions. Now, you said that back in, was it 2021?
2023.
2023. Okay, I was around then. I don't remember it. That doesn't really mean anything, but can we verify that it was applied for and granted? That was before grant, right?
Thank you, Commissioner Boone, for that question. When this was brought to my attention, I did do some research into our online system, and I did find a variance application from March of 2021 that was originally applied for
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah,
That's okay.
okay.
by Tony, and a fee was paid. There were no other documents in that record, and it was closed out from inaction. So it was closed out, withdrawn.
The variance was applied for, but it was not reviewed and approved.
I can't say as to what the review looked like because I was not here then. However, it does not look like it went to public hearing and no decision was made. And so the application itself was closed out, withdrawn administratively
Yeah.
due to inaction.
Yeah, I looked for it in my files from a few years ago and I couldn't find it. Okay, that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Edgley Wells.
Okay, so I have a comment, but then a follow-up question based on the architectural plans that I am reviewing in this packet. So my first comment is in review criteria for the variance. I do want to ask whether the applicant purchased the property with knowledge of the standard.
I would say, yes, I'm aware of the city has setback limits. Did I know it was 5 feet for that particular area of town? I would say no, because most of the houses in that area are not set back 5 feet.
Okay. My second question is based on the drawn design for the addition and speaking to the way that the home is currently structured. You're trying to mitigate a safety concern by being able to walk from the basement to the backyard. And then with the addition, you're addressing maybe a different entrance or exit so that people can't be running into each other.
Yep.
In the drawing, can you please, I'm a new commissioner, so could you please explain to me where that mitigation would take place and if there is another way in and out of that room so that way that is not going to happen again?
So, kind of re-reviewing this, the blue area is the porch, I'm sorry. Oh, I can't. Okay, that might help. if you can see that. So this area right here is the back porch. Okay, today, where this landing is right here, there's an existing door to the outside. Okay, the stairs coming up, stairs going down into that landing, and the door is the safety issue. Okay, the door opens into the landing. So the intent was to get rid of that door and move the back entrance to over here to my right of the diagram and create stair access so that you could access the back part of the home, miss the whole stair landing situation, and go up to what's basically the porch and kitchen area of the home.
Thank you. So in that regard, is it moving the access rather? It kind of seems if you're moving the access point that people running into each other could still be an issue. No?
No, well, I mean, you don't have a door.
Okay.
You don't have a door in those stairway anymore, so
Okay.
someone's not opening the door on you
Outward.
as you're coming down the stairs.
Okay.
Could you have people walking up and down the stairs? Sure, but they're just walking up the stairs to the landing and then that area there.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple questions, and these are a little bit more technical, so Molly, I think they're probably for you. One, I'm fairly inclined to vote for this variance, period. I want to make sure I understand exactly what I'm voting for. We're being asked for two different variances here. One is allowing the setback in the expansion, and then separately to allow the existing structure to be expanded, correct?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes,
Okay.
essentially.
And so effectively, again, I'm not suggesting I want to do this, but I want to make sure I understand here. If we were to grant only the variance to allow the expansion, that the expansion portion would have to be with that 5-foot setback. So, and I recognize that the applicant has talked about why that's not ideal, but I just want to play this out.
I can explain this a little bit better. I am going to read out a section from the code
Okay.
and then kind of explain it, hopefully to give clarity on that question. So in section 1508070, which is the non-conforming structures, under A, which is enlargement, any enlargement, alteration, or expansion of a non-conforming structure that complies with applicable dimensional standards for the portion of the structure being enlarged is allowed, provided such expansion meets all other applicable standards in this development code. So, if the proposed addition were to meet that 5-foot side yard setback, no variance would actually be required. The reason there is also the expansion or enlargement of the non-conforming structure variance request is because there is that setback variance request. So then when we're looking at A2 under this same section, enlargements of non-conforming structures that increase the degree of non-conformity, so not meeting that dimensional standard, are prohibited unless the director approves an administrative modification, which Chair Poland brought up earlier, or if a variance is granted.
Okay. That's
Does
helpful.
that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
that really does help. And it's weird, but that's really helpful. And so I think then I wanted to just ask a clarifying question based on what Commissioner Boone brought up on basement crawl space. I gotta tell you, I'm not an architect or an engineer, and so I'm trying to interpret these plans a little bit. I'm gonna go with the applicant saying it's intended to be a crawl space. Given the variance we're granting here, we're not granting a variance for a basement in any way, shape, or form. If we go ahead and approve the PCR as written, I assume it cannot be a basement given the plans that have been presented. It has to be approved as a crawl space, and therefore it has to be inspected as a crawl space and meet all the applicable codes. Is that accurate?
Thank you, Commissioner. Great question. I might defer to Director Penland as I am not in the building department, nor am I an architect, so I don't want to answer that.
Thank you. Director Pendlet,
Thank you. I think I understood the question, Commissioner. So I'll start with the second part. From a building permit perspective, if it was proposed as is, as Commissioner Boone pointed out, it could not function as a basement, so it would not be given occupancy for a basement. In terms of the first part of your question, I don't know that granting a variance for the setback for the structure itself would necessarily preclude if the applicant so chose to submit a permit that actually met the building requirements for a basement, meaning going deeper to actually fulfill building permit requirements.
Okay. I want to explore that just for a second here.
Sure.
We're being asked to grant a variance for the setback. We're being asked to do so for a 403 square foot addition, and that's what's written in the PCR. If you're going to do, if it was going to come back as a full basement, I assume that means the square footage would be greater because the basement would increase the square footage, and therefore it would have to be a different variance than the one we're proposing tonight. Is that fair?
I don't believe the square footage is subject to the variance criteria. In terms of the PZR, it is called out specifically, so I think that's something we may have to address. But to clarify again, the variance itself is for the expansion. Now that I said that, I understand where you're coming from. So yes, it would be contrary to what is approved tonight if it was approved based upon that square footage.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't, Tony, you've made it clear that's not the intent of what you guys are trying to do. I agree with Commissioner Boone's concern that that's not really appropriate. If we were to do that, I don't have a problem with the variance as written. I want to make sure we're not opening a door that is, causing a different problem. So I appreciate the discussion, and the fact that the square footage is in there, I think is potentially protects us, even though you guys may not love it from a clean variance standpoint. Okay.
That is correct.
That's all for me, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to make a motion or defer to anybody else.
Okay. Commissioner Jordan, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the door that has been causing the stair falling issues, to me, I don't really buy it that this, if you didn't get the variance, that would go out you'd have a 3-foot closet instead of a 6-foot closet. I mean, you might have to make some compromises, but I'm not going to take that as, hey, it's a safety issue that we're mitigating here. I think that's a decision of yours, and you're with your architect and your builder. I also want to understand, because I understand that Molly, that there was a variance, a degree of setback where the planning director could approve an administrative modification, and if I understood correctly, you said 3.75 feet was that cutoff, and we're at 3.1. I did some back of the napkin math. That's 8 inches. So if you bump the side of the house in 8 inches, how much are you really losing?
So first off, you're still losing 8 inches. You're losing 8 inches out of already a small bathroom that's built for 2 people, that's supposed to be built for 2 people. This is not a lavish master bedroom bathroom suite. It is a standing shower, a toilet, and a sink. So it's not overly large. I think the other part of the equation, and part of what I'm pointing out, is just the appeal or the lack of appeal of that building line. Okay? This home, I think is part of our equation for retirement. And I don't want to do anything to deter from its look and its historical feel. So
I appreciate that. And I say that as someone who has rebuilt a foundation from underneath the house and have made compromises on the architectural. But to me, the Old Town side of things, you're in the Bond Farm District. I can see that you're respecting the historical character of the place. And to me, that's more compelling that you're trying to keep things looking consistent and not like tumors glommed onto the building. But I don't buy that you're mitigating a safety issue or you couldn't be creative with other uses of space.
Well, you talked about dropping the closet size down by 3 feet. I guess I don't understand how dropping the closet size down by 3 feet in the current design would allow us to get rid of the stairwell problem.
Well, because right now you show an entrance in the target plan coming off what is effectively at the top of the landing to that L-shaped staircase.
Yeah.
And in my mind, if the building were to move a couple feet in one direction, that the wall, that closet, the exterior wall of the closet, as you have it now, could stay exactly where it is in your target plan. Just the addition gets thinner. That's not a 6 foot deep closet. Now it's a 4 foot deep closet or a 3 foot deep closet. At any rate, that's not really. All I'm saying is I think you could get creative. To me, that's not a primary driver for whether or not I approve or not tonight. I think it's, to me, the more compelling things is keeping in character with the rest of the neighborhood and the fact that I don't believe that this is any really different than what neighbors have done prior to this code being into effect. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to add my 2 cents. I like this architecture work that you've done on this. Totally agree with keeping a straight line with it. It keeps in with the character of the neighborhood, and it makes it easier for you. Gives you a couple extra feet. I know I did a basement, and yes, you're right. Small bathrooms, they get hit really easy with even small changes. But I like the fact that it's a straight line, and that's why I'm all for this, and I would be for a resolution approving this. Which leads us to Vice Chair Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we adopt and approve PZR 2026-3A, a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission approving the setback variance request and expansion of a non-conforming structure request for 216 Grant Street.
Thank you, and I'll go ahead and second that. Do we have any more discussion? Questions, comments? If not, Jane, let's go ahead and take a vote.
Commissioner Edgley Wells?
Yes.
Vice Chair Earl?
Yes.
Chair Poland?
Yes.
Commissioner Boone?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Chair, that passes 4-1 with Commissioner Boone dissenting.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the applicant, and thank you, Molly. The next item is public hearing item 7C, which is 2950 Colorful Avenue, off-site sign variance. Senior planner Christine Cote is presenting. The Planning and Zoning Commission is reviewing the variance pursuant to Code 2024-06 as adopted by the City Council.
Can you do the appeal for?
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you. Woo. Yes, agenda item 7B now enters a 7-day appeal period. During this time, any aggrieved party may appeal the commission's decision by submitting a written appeal letter stating why the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision should be amended or reversed by City Council. All appeals must be in writing and must be received in the City Clerk's office and the Planning Office within the 7-day appeal period. The appeal period begins Thursday, March 26th at 8 a.m., ends Wednesday, April 1st at 5 p.m. Thank you. Now, Kristen, we're ready to proceed with you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Poland and Commission members. I'm Kristen Cody, a Senior Planner with Planning and Community Development. Tonight, for your consideration, I'll be presenting a variance request for the property located at 2950 Colorful Avenue related to signage for White Fields Community Church. The subject property is located at 2950 Colorful Avenue, which is right here on your vicinity map, and consists of approximately 10.64 acres. The site was annexed through the concept direct filing number 1 and is zoned primary employment. The comprehensive land use plan also designates it as primary employment. It is important to note that the sign associated with this request is not located on the subject property. The existing monument sign is located off-site at the northwest corner of Highway 119 and Fairview Street, which is right here. So the Whitefields Community Church is requesting two variances this evening. First, to allow for an off-premises monument sign, which is prohibited under Section 1506.030H of Longmont Development Code. The second is an increase in the maximum permitted sign face area. The code limits monument signs to 80 square feet for properties with 2 to 10 tenants. The applicant is proposing a sign face of 102 square feet, which requires a variance of 22 square feet. This proposal would reface the existing monument sign located at that northwest corner. The applicant has indicated that the sign is proposed to be removed at the time that the Westview property develops. And if approved, the variance would allow both for the off-premises sign and the increase in sign face. This is some imagery of the sign. This is from Colorado 119, looking north at the sign. And this is from Fairview Street, looking west at the signage. Public notice for this application was completed in accordance with the requirements of the Development Code. The property was posted on March 6th, and the notice of public hearing was mailed on March 3rd, and the notice was published in the Longmont Times Call on, I believe, March 20th. No public comments were received in reference to this request. All applications are reviewed against the criteria outlined in Section 1502.055 of the Longmont Development Code, which is criteria for all development types. These criteria ensure that the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, complies with applicable city standards, and is compatible with surrounding properties. This slide is a continuation of the criteria for all application types. In addition to the general criteria, variance requests are evaluated against the variance criteria in Section 1502.060 1.5.A.2. These factors include whether the property can achieve a beneficial use without the granting of the variance, the degree of deviation from the code, whether the applicant was aware of the standard at the time of purchase, if there are alternative solutions, and whether granting the variance would maintain the intent of the regulation. That concludes my presentation. I will now turn it over to the applicant for their presentation, and I am happy to take questions following that. Thank you so very much.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Chris Dayton, Operations Director at Whitefields Community Church. Thank you for the time to address the sign variance that we've proposed. You'll be happy to know I only have 4 slides. The first one is just who we are, to get acquainted with what the church does, how we do community outreach, and the second, third, and fourth are just the sign visibility. So who we are a Christian non-denominational church devoted to serving the spiritual and physical needs of our community. We were founded in 2006, and at that time...
Pardon me, can you just lift the mic up a little bit so we can capture your voice a little bit better? Very good. Thank you.
Sure. So we were founded in 2006, and at that time we met at the Memorial Building over in Roosevelt Park. We stayed there for 14 years and moved to our current site in 2020. So we've been there at Colorful Avenue for about 6 years. We belong to the Calvary Chapel Network, a family of churches working together to proclaim the gospel, make disciples of Christ, and plant churches. We support missionaries around the world, such as in Europe, Central America, South America, and outreaches in South Africa. Typical Sunday attendance is about 650 people. So as I said, we have an extensive local outreach to the community. For example, in 2005, in the summer, we began what we called a Project Back to School, where we supplied 99 backpacks, new backpacks stuffed with with supplies for children that couldn't afford to buy those supplies themselves, or their parents certainly couldn't. The year progressed, we went towards the holidays, and we initiated another program that we do every year called Project Greatest Gift. And there we supplied 389 gifts to children that would otherwise be at risk of not receiving anything for Christmas. We've contributed over $76,000 to and for local outreaches. One example of the beneficiary of this is a Table of Hope food pantry located on our premises. And every second and fourth Saturday of the month, they give out food. And last year it was in the tune of 3,600 total people served and 1,350 boxes of food given out. That's who we are in our local outreach. The current sign is visible from 119, and I've taken a picture of 119. This is slightly zoomed in. For reference, the bold Whitefield's letters are about 2 feet tall. So you can see them from 119, which is what we wanted, and this is in compliance. We're not talking about this sign. However, it would take a person a concerted effort because there's trees blocking it. As they zoom by, they're going parallel, so they would have to look and have the time to see the sign. So we are presented with an opportunity to have a more visible sign. And as Kristen said, this is at Fairview and Colorado 119 on the northwest corner. The sign put there would certainly allow people to say, hey, there must be a church back there, and let's just follow the sign and see where it goes. When installed, well, first about the sign, we didn't want it to be just a regular rectangle. That wouldn't be in compliance with what you want or what we want. We wanted it to look pretty, to be visually appealing. So the sides of the sign emulate the sides of the Brock, and the top of our sign emulates the profile of the Rocky Mountains with Longs Peak, Meeker Peak, Twin Sisters, and all around it, it was designed to be small enough that the rock border would be seen around the perimeter. We just thought that added another context of visual appealing, plus it added a wind buffer for our sign. While the sign was temporarily installed, as shown in this picture, wind gusts of 75 miles per hour were recorded in an easterly direction. There was no visible damage to the sign. And finally, as Kristen mentioned, this is an opportunity given to us by Don Macy of Macy Development. He said that we can use the sign until such time as he wants to develop a parcel of land, and at which time he would let us know, and we take it down, and we agreed. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll probably be asking some questions, so be ready. This is a public hearing item. At this time, I'll go ahead, open up for public invited to be heard. This is a chance for the public to make comments on the item before us. Nobody was on the list. Keeping it open. Seeing nobody come forward, I'll go ahead and close out public invited to be heard and turn it back over to the commission for discussion, questions, comments, motions. Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Chair. You have a really big sign on your building. I think it's bigger than the Walmart sign across the street. So it seems as though people can find you. There's also, I think you're in that same area where the climbing collective or whatever it's called now is, correct? And they don't have a big sign out on 119. I congratulate you for having such a big congregation. Good for you. Those people already know how to find you. And it sounds like there's a lot of other things that you do where people probably might need to be directed to where you are, but as long as they have your address and GPS, they can find you. Or if they're driving down 119, they can see your other big sign. My biggest concern is that it sets a bad precedent for putting big signs on 119 that are not on the property of the business that abuts 119. And I think from a safety standpoint, if 119 becomes an avenue of big signs for all the buildings that are 2 or 3 blocks off of 119, that's a problem. Another thing that you said in your write-up, or somebody said in the write-up, was that this was just going to be temporary. And one of the reasons that you were asking for a variance was for the safety, such that people could easily see where to go. If it's temporary, then what happens when the Macy property is developed? It's not there anymore. So that reason for having it, I don't think is valid. It's a pretty sign. I like what you did with the rock and the mountains. It's a little too big. It's almost of the size where a 25% variance could have been administratively granted, but not quite, I guess. But my main issue is that it sets a bad precedent of putting big signs on 119. So I will have a hard time supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jordan?
Thank you, Chair. Kristen, I had a question. So this type of sign is prohibited that's off-premise, right?
That is correct.
Is there any, I was looking through the sign code and I couldn't find the specific section on that offhand. What is the rationale for that?
Typically, signs are limited in that fashion to avoid roadway clutter, distractions to drivers, and also to protect the view area within the sign.
All right. That was the one question I had, and I'm going to throw out a comment, and I think I'm going to kind of echo what Commissioner Boone said. I'm looking at Google Maps Street View right here, just on Fairview. This sign would be larger than the Longmont city limit sign. I think that is kind of I'm in the same boat. To me, it reads like an advertisement. It doesn't read like it's signage. And I think if you have a really healthy congregation, they know how to get there. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Vice Chair Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kristen, thank you. Chris, thank you. You're asking for 2 variances here. One is to put it off premises. I understand why you want to do that. I'm not convinced it meets criteria, but I understand why. I don't understand why you want the sign to be 102 square feet rather than the 80 square feet. I appreciate the design that you've put together. I do think it looks nice, but I don't understand why it couldn't look nice at 80 square feet instead of 102 square feet. So I don't understand even the reason why you're requesting that variance, I guess.
What we were trying to do is to make sure that our sign didn't look silly with respect to the stone sign that it was going to be behind it. If it was 80 square feet, then it would look quite small, and the Westview words that are engraved behind it would show through.
Okay. So if it was shorter, you would see the words behind it?
Yes.
Okay. I can understand that. I guess whether it looks silly or not might be a little subjective, but I understand not wanting the words there. I struggle a little bit with the off-premises sign, particularly given it's temporary. When I go down our review criteria, where we have to look at, are there special circumstances? I don't really think there's exceptional dimension, shape, topography of the property. The property and development can absolutely have beneficial use. I recognize the sign as valuable, but there is beneficial use there. We do ask whether the applicant purchased the property with knowledge of the standard. I think you had a box in there, but I actually can't remember the response. Was that something that was known at the time of development when it was purchased?
Right. It was no.
Okay. And Whether the standard can be addressed through some means other than a variance, I mean, I don't think there's another way to do that other than believing the sign on the building is already appropriate, and whether the purpose and intent behind the regulation would be maintained. I don't think the purpose and intent behind the regulation would be maintained if we granted the variance. I don't think I can be in a position to support the variance. I understand why it's beneficial. I don't think it rises to the level of meeting the criteria we have to meet.
Thank you. Councilman Popkin.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a clarifying question on two aspects of the dimensions here. So just to make sure I'm perfectly clear on this, the sign in question we're talking about is the white sign, and that's the 102 square feet, correct?
Yes.
Kristen? Yeah. And so then is the stone behind that considered a sign, and is that conforming or not? Because if the white sign is greater than 80 square feet, wouldn't the stone also be much greater?
What I can tell you about the sign that exists there today is I did search through the city archived records and could find no record of a building permit for that sign. Although Kyle Hayworth, who is the traffic engineering administrator, did approve that sign location in a permit that was included in your packet as, I believe, Exhibit F. So the existing sign, it has been approved by transportation in reference to location and size. So we would only be looking at the Whitefields overlay.
Thank you. Just curious about this.
Thank you. Commissioner Edgley Wells.
Thank you, Chair. So I can't speak to the rock sign being on the property of the Macy property owners who will eventually develop on that property. That is their thing. But what I would like to speak to right now is the Whitefield sign as a safety concern, as a possible distraction for drivers going down 119. Especially since on your current property you do have a sizable sign that does let your congregation know where you're located. Thinking on our review criteria for variances, one of the items does say if it creates a fire hazard or safety concern. And I would like to maybe invite us to think about the distraction that a sign that size could create for drivers on 118.
Okay, could I respond to that? I did talk to CDOT about this. They have a Form 129. We went through that and they said it doesn't apply to us. We're fine. So they don't agree that it's a safety hazard in any way.
Are there any other questions, comments, motions?
If I could say one other thing. This is a rare opportunity for us to get more visibility for the westbound drivers. Like I said, although we have a big sign on our building, a lot of people that come don't say they saw the sign because you have a narrow angle, you have trees in the way. You can see it if you're perpendicular to it, but how many drivers are going to turn their heads and make a concerted effort to look at that sign at that point? Not many. So the sign on the building is there for people who are finding us based on other means, not by seeing a sign. And I'm just saying that if we have Mr. Macy saying, you can use my rock sign for a year, which is about what it seems like it's going to be, it's a great opportunity for us to alert people. And at that time, the sign is going to be coming down anyway.
Okay. Kristen, so no matter what the size of the sign is, they would still need to request a variance to put it in that location because it's off-site, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, comments? Would somebody like to make a motion? Commissioner Jordan.
Just one more comment. I want to again echo, I think that variances need to be considered with really, really tough thinking. They really need to be granted only when it's the last option. And the fact that it might only be there for a year, to me, makes it like not a good use of a variance, especially because it would open up as a precedent other off-site properties to then put more signs along 119. So for that being my opinion, I would motion that we move forward with PZR 2026-1C to deny the variance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Boone?
I'll second it.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments, questions? If not, Jane, let's take a vote.
Commissioner Edgley Wells?
Yes.
Vice Chair Earl?
Yes.
Earl, golly. Chair Poland?
Yes.
Commissioner Boone?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Chair, that motion passes 5-0 to deny.
Thank you. Agenda item 7C, the appeal process announcement. This item now enters a 7-day appeal period. During this period, any aggrieved party may appeal the commission's decision by submitting a written appeal letter stating why the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision should be amended or reversed by City Council. All appeals must be in writing, must be received in the city's clerk's office and the planning office within the 7-day appeal period. The appeal period begins Thursday, March 26th at 8 a.m., ends Wednesday, April 1st at 5 p.m. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we are done with the public hearing items. Next item is final call, public invited to be heard. This is a chance one last time for anybody out in the audience who would like to come and have any comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Nobody was signed up. Seeing nobody come forward, I'll go ahead and close out. Public invited to be heard. Next is items from the commission. Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to mention that a number of us went to the, help me out here, the Rocky Mountain Land Use Institute conference that was held a few weeks ago down at DU. And first of all, I really appreciate the city sponsoring us to go down there. It was very informative. I learned a lot. My only regret really is that I didn't see any planners, any Longmont planners down there with us. Were there two? There was one? Okay. And I would certainly encourage this event to be made possible for the planners in years to come. Each year has a certain topic. There's been water use and I don't know, there was a whole session on the Colorado River one year. This one had a lot to do with housing, which is, you know, what we are all dealing with. And it also touched on many of the House bills that are addressing things that are perhaps in conflict with our home rule as a city. And I found it to be very interesting and kind of conflicting. There were a lot of attorneys there, there were planners, there were people from other locations. There were people there from not Wyoming, well, there probably were, but from Oregon and Washington that presented some really interesting planning solutions. There was one panel that had someone from Pitkin County talking about affordable housing in Pitkin County, where the mean price for a house is $8.1 million. And they're still trying to provide workforce housing. So you think we have it tough. Think about being in Pitkin County. Anyway, it was very informative, and I would certainly encourage anyone from the planning department, or even from the city council for that matter, to try to attend next year. It was great. And thank you for your support.
Thank you. Vice Chair Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to bring up the exact same point, Commissioner Boone. So I appreciate you getting there first. Not at all. I echo what you said. I am grateful to the city for allowing us to go. I would highlight one of the lunch speakers was Donna Elliott, who gave a talk about the past and future of zoning in the West, which was, informative, educational. I would love to have that. I would love to make sure that all of council could see that same presentation, particularly as we go into a comprehensive plan season. I think it was just so, it was so much packed into an hour. As someone who's only been on this commission for a little over a year, it was incredibly valuable context for me. So I'm really grateful for that. And just as we do more and more, I think some of the history and how we get to the zoning is really good to bring up. Totally separate point. I know council has directed staff to look at some of the multifamily zoning that we've talked about before. I'm hoping that we can have an update on that progress and when we might be able to see that in front of us. So I would hope that we can get that update from the planning director when it's his turn. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Any other items from the commission? If not, we will go ahead and move to items from Council Representative Popkin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I've sat through a few variance hearings myself, and they each present different considerations, and I thought you guys all navigated that really thoughtfully. I appreciate the consideration, and they're tricky, and they're often personal, or very, very deeply felt by the applicants. So, and I believe all of them by law are usually Longmont residents, or at least on behalf of an applicant on behalf of a Longmont resident. So thanks for considering that. Couple updates, I think, that would be either broadly or directly applicable to P&Z here. First, the Planning and Zoning Commission saw a presentation last August, I believe it was, on the old Walmart site by the north of the Village of the Peaks off of Nelson Road. City Council did approve that intergovernmental agreement earlier this month, I believe, if not late February. It was one of those. I think it was late February, actually. And the Longmont Urban Renewal Authority, I believe, will be considering that final approval next week. So thank you for your past review of that, if you were on the commission at the time. Yesterday, City Council approved a Phase 1 effort to advance planning work for Front Range Community College urban downtown campus, with the intent of attracting the college to that permanent higher education downtown area. Just to make sure everyone's clear on what part we're talking about, if you know where the First and Main Transit Station is planned for on the west side of 287 and south of First, you'd be looking across 287 to the east, south of First, south of the railroad tracks there, between there and basically Boston Avenue is that core area that we're talking about there. All of those materials are public online. Feel free to drop me an email if you would like more clarity on that specifically. That is very exciting and definitely relates to a lot of the broader First and Main planning area and the steam sugar mill broader plan areas that many of you have either contributed to or reviewed in the past as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? City Council has approved updates. At the February meeting, I was sharing some the direction that City Council was headed in terms of advisory board update on process, particularly around interviews. All of the updates that I shared in February that were under consideration were approved. There was a brief side quest to consider whether to limit the nature or scope of the recommendations, specifically for advisory boards that passed first reading and then did not pass on second reading. So that was not part of the overall recommendation, in case you were following part of that, but not all of it. And then on a few other things that are going to be forthcoming to the commission, and Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, I won't promise any timelines here, but there was I guess I made the motion to direct the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think it was 2 weeks ago, to evaluate which future zones should allow for new drive-through uses, and recommend zoning and code changes, if any, to reflect Longmont's modern land use needs. So P&Z will be considering that. I believe, actually, you all received a presentation about that last spring, if I recall correctly, at least as a study item at that time and not a directional item. So that'll be building on that topic. There was another drive-through consideration being worked on that staff is fine-tuning in our code. That's more for the Main Street corridor and separate from that motion. And lastly, I believe the commission, either in your next meeting or the meeting after that, will be seeing code updates proposed for the bike parking throughout the city. I don't know if that's been scheduled yet officially, but the Transportation Advisory Board saw a draft of that earlier this month and provided some initial feedback. So just a little bit of a preview on what's to come.
Thank you very much. Next is items from Planning Director Grant Penland.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. I'll go ahead and update in terms of timeline. I think the specific request from council was to bring back in the form of a zero reading, essentially adding single family attached in the single family residential zone districts. So from a time frame perspective, we're hoping April, May timeline. Staff had already been kind of working on that, so the intent is to walk through kind of what the implications of making that type of change. We already discussed, at least at a high level, with commission. Obviously, we haven't had that discussion with council yet, so a little bit of a crossover there, but that's our anticipated or goal timeline, time frame. Bike parking, since the council member brought that up, we, I believe, are looking at May to bring that in front of Planning Commission. And with that said, we actually do have several land use items as well. So many such that we are looking at two items on April 15th, one being an annexation that we anticipate that will garner significant interest from the public. So that coupled with a URA amendment that is somewhat time sensitive. So that's the goal for April 15th. So we will be requesting, if the commission is amenable, to start that meeting at 6 o'clock. And then we would look to have a April 22nd meeting as well. That would include land development code amendment dealing with prairie dogs, as well as a conditional use site plan. And then I won't go into the gory details other than, again, we have several others that are kind of vying for the May timeframe. And again, looking, as I mentioned, the bike parking for May. So definitely have a heavy schedule anticipated in the next few months. And I think that's all I have this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we are in adjournment.